In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the championship week. For those of you who are at least in your championships anyway.
Yeah, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
Sorry, Steve. This is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Cotillo. I have with me Steve Marcus. You already heard him complaining. What's up, Steve?
Yep. Oh, not a whole lot. Got a lot of that in me today.
Listen, I'm just trying to get people pumped. It's their championship week. They're trying to get ready.
It is a big week.
It's a big week for everyone here.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's a big week for you.
For me as well.
Yeah.
I know. It is.
You got a lot going on.
I'm excited. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You're on.
I got nothing.
Hey, Sal. Sal Lito is with us as well, of course.
Yeah, how you doing, everybody? I got nothing.
So Steve, you're on both ends of the spectrum this week, huh?
Yeah, I mean, guess so.
You're in one championship, I believe, and then you're also in a relegation match.
Yeah, from FLAFFL, from the league that this podcast is actually named after. I might not even be in the league next year, so I don't know what that means with my tenure here on the podcast. But
Are you in the league this year?
Actually, I was. Every league's got a caboose, and this year I was FLAFFL's caboose.
Yeah,
and,
Sal, remember that bye week you had? That was Steve.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was good.
You're welcome. So yeah, one game, me versus P. Dolo. Winner stays in FLAFFL. Loser drops to FLAFFL Junior. This one's for all the marbles. So I'm either going to have a lot of happy family surrounding me on Saturday or a lot of very, very upset family. So we'll see what happens.
So your family is invested in this for you?
No, they'll just be subjected to my behavior depending on the outcome
Nice.
of these games.
I'm thinking if they're around you, they're not happy as it is, period.
Yeah. How drunk will you be?
You'd be wrong about that.
If there's
that
relegation
will also be
involved.
dependent on how those games go.
Yeah.
Things can turn south real quick.
Certainly.
Hey, guys, I lost a semifinal game this week.
We heard. I saw.
Yeah. The final score of that game was 174.1 to 174.0.
Oh, God, it's so brutal.
I have nothing to play for this week. I have nothing.
That's
Don't
tough.
even care.
So why are you
no
here?
reports.
Do you want to take the night off?
I'm out of here. Goodbye.
No, we need you. We got a lot to get to tonight. But before we do, I got to go through a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, I want to remind everyone that you can follow the show on Twitter as @FLAFFL House. You can follow me @Wally Central. You can follow Steve @SidSkeet. And you can follow Sal @LitoSal. You can also follow us all on the Fantasy Life app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, I don't know what you're doing. I'm surprised you're in the championship. If you are, you need to get on this app. You can get it wherever you get an app. It's the Fantasy Life app. We're all in there in the FLAFFL House chat. Come in, ask us questions. Sal spends a ridiculous amount of time on Sunday mornings answering questions. I try to get in there as well. Steve is always there because he has no life, and it's a great place to go in, ask questions, get everything answered. So definitely check that out. Also want to let everyone know that the FLAFFL Festivus episode is coming soon. It'll be on Friday, guys. Are you excited? No?
A Festivus for the rest of us.
Yeah, Festivus episode is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be airing the grievances. For those of you who don't know, Google Festivus. You will find lots of funny information and clips from Seinfeld, who is the originator of the Festivus season. So we're going to celebrate it in true Festivus style by airing grievances from our listeners. We have a lot of good clips already in. If you want to get yours in, get them in by the end of the day tomorrow. As I mentioned, we're looking for 1-minute clips on anything you want to complain about. Sal has explained this many times, but you can complain about coaches. You can complain about players. You can complain about your roster in general. You can complain about any of your rosters. You can complain about Sal. A lot of people felt like they needed to complain about Sal this year. You can do that.
That would be Brandon's probably, right?
Right, yeah, I think that's going to be Brandon's. You can also complain about any of your favorite users from the Fantasy Life app if you're one of those people. So lots of Jetty submissions already. I don't know that we'll play them all, but...
Jetty, is that even his name anymore?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Anyway, so get those submissions in. FLAFFLhouse@gmail.com is where you can send them if you want to get them in by end of day tomorrow. 1 minute clip. You can swear. But as I've mentioned, Steve will be bleeping the swears out, so try to keep it to a minimum. He is not a magician. And finally, I just want to let everyone know that we are changing up the schedule a little bit for next week. Obviously, we will have our Festivus episode on Friday. That's our normal release. But next week, given that Sunday is Christmas, I'm going to give these guys the day off. Sal, Steve, you can take Sunday off.
Thank you, Ebenezer.
You're very welcome. We will be recording on Monday night for us, which means you will most likely see your release as your late Christmas gift on Tuesday morning. And then that week, we will only, because we're recording on, you'll get your episode on Tuesday. Doesn't make sense for us to release on Wednesday as well, so you'll only get 2 episodes next week. It'll be Tuesday and Friday. So... a little scheduling note for those of you.
My goodness, Steve. I believe he was visited by 3 ghosts. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I got nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing either. That's very good. Very good.
Took me by surprise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not often that Sal can still surprise us, so I appreciate that, Sal. Nice work.
Well, it's not safe for his heart that he surprises anybody these days.
Yeah.
So.
Wait a second.
The age is, not good. You want to take those surprises carefully. But all right, so guys, we have 16 games to get to. I don't know how we're gonna do it. Sal and I took an hour and a half to get through like 14 games the other day. So I don't know. This could be rough.
In fairness, we took 30 minutes to get through one game.
Right.
And then an hour for the other 11. So.
That's true. So, but we are going to do it. Steve is going to lead the way. We are going to start off with our Thursday game. But, Steve, take us. Before we get started, any news that you guys wanted to bring up, or are we just going to bring them up as we go through?
Yeah, we might as well bring them up as we get into each game, since we're going to be hitting on every team anyway. So
perfect. I appreciate that. We probably should have talked about that before the show.
Nah, a little behind the scenes here.
That's right.
See what's happening.
Take it away,
Pay
Steve.
no attention to the man behind the curtain.
All right. Yeah, like you mentioned, we're going to talk about Thursday night. Normally, we're recording our preview show on Thursday night, so we don't ever talk about this game. So this week, it is the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Speaking of a little bit of news, Shane Vereen, he was placed on IR this week, so he is no longer an option for the Giants backfield. Speaking of which, Rashad Jennings, I wanted to ask Kev if you think that he would be a solid start this week. He's running back 24 over the last 5 weeks. The Giants seem determined to use him for some reason, although he doesn't look great. But he's going against Philly's defense, who is 7th worst and tied for 2nd in rushing TDs allowed. Are you going to be trusting a guy like Rashad Jennings this week going against Philadelphia on a Thursday night?
Difficult for me to trust a guy when you don't know what the split's going to be. I mean, I still think that, yes, Rashad Jennings getting the majority of the touches, but I do think Paul Perkins has eaten into those touches, so I'm concerned about that. In addition, I mean, it's a great matchup for them. The Eagles have been good, but I don't know. I feel like they're going to give the rookie a little bit more run here. It's weird because you see that they're pleased with him, but then you see reports that he's still not great in pass protection. I don't know. So I'm not sure exactly what they're doing there. But I do think that he will be worked in quite a bit in this game, and there is a potential for this game to get out of hand, which means to me they may rest guys a little bit if they get ahead early. And that could be Jennings, sadly enough, which means the rookie gets even more run. So, I mean, I think if you've been playing him, you're probably trotting him out there because I can't imagine he's anything more than an RB2 at best for you, maybe a flex. So in this matchup, he could probably get in the end zone, so it might be worth doing there. But I'd be a little concerned about him.
I'll say this. I know they've been a little bit worse lately against the run, but in week 9, Giants 22 carries for 58 yards and no rushing touchdowns against these Eagles. So they have played once this year, but I will tell you, Kevin, that in New York on New York Sports Radio, that was a topic of conversation today about Paul Perkins possibly seeing more time and taking over the carries.
Very interesting. Sal, what do you think about a guy like Sterling Shepard? Obviously, Odell Beckham is in your lineup no matter what, but Sterling Shepard, who did get a touchdown last week, is he somebody that you think you might be able to trust going against the Philly secondary that's been fourth worst against wide receivers the last 5 weeks?
Yeah, and they're fourth worst, I believe, on the season overall, even in the last few weeks, but overall. And it's gotta depend on how many roster spots are given to wide receivers, right? So if it's a 3 wide receiver league, I'm probably going to be getting him in there. He's possibly a flex for me this week. It's 2 weeks in a row that he's gotten touchdowns, I believe. Same play both weeks. It was kind of that little loft to the corner of the end zone, and he just did a quick out and grabbed it. So, I mean, the matchup is there. He's been getting targets and he's been getting touchdowns. So I think it's somebody you can trust. And if you're in a deeper league, then he's more than likely your wide receiver too.
All right. What about Eli? Real quick. Anyone trusting Eli this week? Championship week.
I think we've talked about it, right? If your options, if you're rolling with Eli, Sal, what was the majority of your rosters this year?
Typically, my rosters had Eli and Stafford on them. So
yeah,
between those two guys and maybe a Carson Palmer would have been thrown in there with those two guys. Those are the type of guys that if you waited a little bit longer in drafts, that you could get 2 of and do mix and match throughout the season. So, yeah, I'm not loving it's a good matchup, right? But I would probably go with Stafford this week if I was making that choice.
Really?
Yeah. Who's he playing?
Dallas.
Yeah, against Dallas, I'm probably not. I'm probably sticking with Eli in this one. I think Eli's Stafford. Probably, given the Philly matchup and a short week here, I think I'd probably still go with Eli.
All right. We are going
Stafford.
What?
Sorry. I said at least over Stafford.
I see. I would have to lean Stafford myself, but it is what it is. Dolphins at the Bills. We move along. The Bills, they've been pretty bad against the run lately. The last 5 weeks, they are the third worst against running backs, allowing over 100 rushing yards per game and 6 TDs allowed to running backs in that time. So I ask you, Sal, JJ, in the last 5 weeks, he only comes in as running back 28 in PPR. So he's only really been a flex play. He's only scored 2 touchdowns in that time, averaging just over 50 yards rushing per game. Is he someone that you're going to be trusting this week in your championship game?
If I had a championship game and he was on that roster, then he'd be an RB2 for me this week for sure. The matchup is there. I got to imagine he's probably one of the top 3 running backs on your roster, and the matchup is definitely good. And the guy who's going to see him firsthand in the championship this week is Kevin. So I'm pretty sure if you have Jay Ajayi, you're going to get him in there. Yes.
Yeah, I think the one thing that makes me nervous in this is the health of the offensive line for Miami, because it seems like when those guys are hurt, that's when Ajayi has struggled over the last few weeks. So, and I'm not sure how many of them are going to be out. It's just something to keep an eye on. I think Pouty's out. I think he might be done for the year. So just keep an eye on the offensive line there, because when they have a few guys missing, they've seemed to struggle quite a bit. I know the Bills present a good matchup, but it just with those guys out, it makes me a little nervous. And keep in mind, the Bills are going to play, hard in this one. I know that they've struggled, but they really do, for some odd reason, the players really do like Rex Ryan, and at home against a division rival, they're going to play hard against this team. So I expect this to be a tough game.
Rexy, go bye-bye.
Kev, you are a LaShawn McCoy owner. He is a no-brainer start every week. But what about Mike Gillislee? Would you feel comfortable starting him this week? Yes, you hate him.
Sorry.
But was he a potential flex play for you this week, knowing how much goal line work he gets?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be, but in a championship matchup, you should have better options, because he's not. You can't guarantee it. I know he's been fairly consistent as far as the usage in the goal line, so that's great. But there could be a chance when he doesn't. You got to remember, LaShawn McCoy got 2 touchdowns last week too, because he was used in the goal line situation. So he's not only not getting all of the goal line carries, he's getting some of them. They're not always going to punch it in, and he is incredibly touchdown dependent. When you're talking about a championship matchup, I don't think that's the type of guy you want to count on. So for me, I would hope that you have a better option. So unless you're injury depleted or playing in a terribly deep league, I think you're going to stay away from him. I would love to have him on my roster. I would start both him and McCoy in a 16-team league. But, it is what it is.
Not bad. And Sal, real quick, Sammy Watkins, what do you think he does this week?
I'd be scared away from Sammy Watkins. I mean, would he have 1 for 10 the other day? He's come back and he's looked okay. He's not getting the consistent targets. And I do think that this will be a McCoy-heavy game. So I've gotten this far in the season, and I didn't have Watkins for most of it. So I'm going to go back to those guys that helped get me to this point. I'm going to play them over Sammy Watkins this week.
All right, that makes a lot of sense to me. We move along.
What
Kev?
about the I just want to ask you guys real quick. What about the Miami wide receivers? Because there's obviously a lot going on there with the wide receivers. The Buffalo Bills have been pretty good against wide receivers this year. I think total for the year they're 26th against the wide receiver. But a lot of people got some good production out of Landry, but he still only had 3 catches last week. So what are you guys doing there? Are you trusting any of those guys in this in a championship matchup?
I think you can trust Landry just because of the type of targets that I know he only had 3 catches, but because of the type of routes that he normally runs, I think are conducive for him to being able to receive a high volume still. Devontae Parker, I would be a little more hesitant. I know him and Ryan Tannehill had a good thing going before he got injured, but didn't see that real connection with Matt Moore last week. So I think Jarvis Landry would be the only one that I'd feel comfortable rolling out this week. What about you, Sal?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. And Kenny Stills is basically a deep threat, one catch, take it to the house guy. And you cannot rely on a guy like that in a championship game. And very similar to the player that he was in New Orleans, if you guys remember that rookie season. It was 1 catch a game, 40 to 50 yards, and a touchdown, and it would be like every other game. So Landry, only Landry, but maybe Deion Sims. I don't know.
I don't know.
Charles Clay, also a name to keep in mind. If you did stream tight ends and got this far, he's another guy that with a decent matchup this week who's had solid production lately. So
I'd be so scared to start him in a championship game.
I know,
Scared.
But of the tight ends that you'd be rotating through lately, he's been one of the most consistent over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been good lately. There's a reason I'm not having to make these decisions this week.
Jordan Reed or Charles Clay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sad that's a question, Sal. I might lean towards Charles Clay this week.
I personally don't think it's crazy right now, Kev.
I don't think it is either. I mean, Miami Dolphins 6th worst against tight ends this year in general, and I mean we saw what happened with Jordan Reed. He's obviously in a lot of pain.
He's a lot of pain. I don't know. He's throwing a few punches.
Yeah, well, you hurt your hand. You get in a lot of pain when you punch a helmet.
That's right.
All right, we are going to move right along. Kev, you should be happy to talk about this one. The New York Jets are flying all the way to New England to get beat by the Patriots.
Yes.
This is going to be
They'll probably take a bus, I think.
I see. Gonna be a lot of blood in this game. I feel the Patriots, close win against the Jets the first time they played. I think they're going to be upset about that. So Julian Edelman, obvious start with the amount of volume he's been getting this last few weeks. But Malcolm Mitchell, someone that probably you sat on your bench with the tough matchup against Denver this week. Are you just ready to roll him right back out there against the Jets secondary?
Yeah, seeing a lot of questions about him come up on the app already this week. People getting prepared for their championships. I would start anyone that wears a New England jersey this week in the passing game because they're going to fire it all over the field, I think. The only concern for me in this one is that they go up very big, very early, and then just start to rest guys. That's the only consideration. But, at that point, you've probably gotten points out of him. Mitchell is a great play in my mind this week because I think he'll get a decent amount of targets and catches. Hogan's a flex play maybe. I think he'll probably be you might see 1 or 2 long catches for him, and hopefully he gets one of them into the end zone. And I think Bennett's a great play as well. Everyone in the passing game. I even think Dion Lewis might be a good play, even though the Jets have been pretty good against the run. But he got a lot of work last week, and I think that he is, sort of starting to see him take over the role, the James White role a little bit more. James White's still on the field, but just not as much. and they clearly want to get Dion Lewis more involved now that he's feeling a little healthier. So all of those guys are must starts, or not must starts, but definitely starts for me.
Sal, is there any way that you're going to be starting Matt Forte for the rest of the year if he's active, or do you think Bilal Powell's the running back to start and to play, for this last week?
I would think that if Forte is going to play, it kind of kills both of their values for me. I know Powell did a lot last week with Forte active, but he was barely used, Matt Forte. So to me, it becomes a confusing situation, a dangerous situation. And if I have one of the two, I'm going to leave them both on my bench likely and just try to roll with somebody else. Try to play a matchup that's better than this one.
It's tough.
Patriots have been real good on defense lately, like real good.
Yeah, it's tough though because you could see what happened with Powell. That could easily happen again where Forte only gets 5 touches and Powell leads the game. I don't think he's going to have a game like that anyway because, like you said, the New England defense has been very hot.
So hot right now, that New England Patriots.
So hot
defense,
right now.
So hot. All right. Well, do you have anything else in this game? Kind of cut and dry, it seems, on this one.
Sit your Jets.
No Robbie Anderson?
I was saying, is Robbie Anderson a thing? Is that?
No, because Bryce Petty's a very good chance he's not going to play, right? So Bryce Petty's guy.
It does look like he's okay. He might play. If you are considering Robbie Anderson, you can keep an eye on that because it's on the fence whether or not Petty will play. But
I got to think that unless you're in a 16-team league, right, and most people just aren't, that you've gotten here with guys who
without
have been more
Robbie
consistent.
Anderson.
Yeah, listen, the guy he's a speedster and he's done great, and the two of them, I guess, from being on the secondary squads and practices have gotten into a nice rhythm with each other. So it's not crazy. He's gotten deep for touchdowns, but I got to think I'm having better options. I mean,
Robbie Anderson or Julio Jones.
It's the exact. I was about to say if I got Julio Jones, maybe I'm considering it, but that's funny you said that. I'd be nervous about playing Julio this week. We'll discuss that when we get to Atlanta.
All right. We roll right along to the Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gus Bradley is out. Doug Marrone is in, and he's already messing up. He's sticking with Blake Bortles at quarterback. But on the flip side, the Jaguars' defense has been very solid, especially against quarterbacks and wide receivers. So you're obviously starting DeMarco Murray. But, Sal, we will start with you. What are you doing with Marcus Mariota this week? He has been a QB 26 over the last 5 weeks. Is he someone that you're going to continue to stick with, or is he someone you're looking for better options?
I think I'm going to look for a better option this week. The Jaguars have actually been pretty good at playing defense. They've been shutting down passing games. And Mariota
it's
also.
Nice you're coming around there, Sal.
Yeah,
I've been saying that all year.
I didn't say anything about the tight ends. I think that Mariota is another one of these guys that was likely not drafted in your league, and you picked them up off of waivers, which means you have another quarterback that is serviceable. And I would check what that matchup is. If he's your only quarterback, you got to roll with him. You roll with him. He does make things happen, but he's going to be down in the QB2 range for me when I do my ranks tomorrow.
Kev, you are a big fan of running backs. We've established that a long time running here on this podcast. Derrick Henry, he got a lot of play last week. Is he somebody that you think might be on the fringe of flex play going into this championship week?
Yeah, I think he could be.
We need definitive answers here, man.
Yeah, I guess for the championship week you do. I guess I would equate it to the same way that like we just talked about. The problem is he's touchdown dependent. So with Mike Gillislee, I guess it's the same thing, right? He's not really getting enough volume that you can trust him as a flex play without guaranteeing a touchdown. But when a guy scores 2 touchdowns, it's really nice. So I mean, to me, I probably wouldn't be able to put him in my lineup in most 12-team or less leagues because I think hopefully you have a better option and hopefully you you can use that option because I just think you don't want to guarantee yourself or worry about whether or not he's going to get a touchdown. I think DeMarco Murray is going to be the guy in this one. I think they're going to use him. I think unless somehow Tennessee gets up big, you're gonna see a lot of DeMarco Murray. You might see Henry mixed in, but I can't guarantee he's gonna get the touchdowns.
Yep, I would agree with that. And just to add on to what Sal was talking about with the quarterbacks, that probably means most of the wide receivers would probably off limits this week. The Jaguars have been third best against them over the last 5 weeks. And oddly enough, against the tight end, very middle of the pack lately, the Jaguars have been 15th against tight end. So Delaney Walker probably going to be an okay play to roll out there. You roll him out every week regardless. All right, we are going to move on. The Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. After last week, seeing what Indianapolis did to Minnesota, you got to feel a little bit better about your Packers fantasy players this week. So let's not spend too much time there. You're starting most of
Kristen
those guys.
Michael going to get another touchdown, right?
I wouldn't be holding your breath on that one.
That would be lovely.
Are you starting him again, Kevin?
I mean, I've got some other options that I'm going to have to run through, but I think in that particular league, he might be my best bet. I think he'll get a couple. I mean, look, I think again, it's a 16-team league. It's very deep, so I realize that this doesn't apply to most people.
Stop laughing.
But I will say that I think, he will get mixed in. Montgomery is obviously a stud. We saw what he did last week. He had averaged over a first down per carry, so that's pretty solid. But I do think they will continue to mix Michael in because they got to rest Montgomery from time to time, and so 5 to 10 carries, maybe he breaks one. I think if I get lucky again, that's great.
So basically the Derrick Henry and Mike Gillislee effect.
Exactly. If I had either of those guys, though, I would start them over Kristen Michael.
Good to know. All right, so for Minnesota, you've got Kyle Rudolph. He's been pretty solid all season long, but other than him, is there anyone you'd feel comfortable starting from this Minnesota offense? Sal, we'll start with you since Kev blabbed about Kristen Michael already.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would. I'd be definitely considering rolling out Diggs as a wide receiver 2 this week. I know he hasn't been a consistent wide receiver 2 this year, but the Packers are worst in the league in defending wide receivers. They gave up 42 fantasy points to the Chicago wide receivers last week. 25 receptions, 321 yards, and 2 touchdowns to wide receivers a week ago. So, I mean, that says to me Diggs has got to get some play in this game. So, if I have him on my roster, he's probably slipping into my wide receiver 2 this week. Outside of that, I'm not touching a running back on this team. And
no AP?
No. He could sit in Kevin's lineup.
Nope. Learned my lesson. I somehow made it through that week into the championship.
AP or Kristen Michael?
Kristen Michael. I'll take Kristen Michael.
Would you really?
Yep.
In all honesty, you would take Kristen Michael over AP?
No.
Yeah.
It sounded good for the show. Why'd you have to ruin it?
It did.
You had to ruin everything.
It did. But no, he will be on my bench in any league that I have him unless I did somehow get him in the 16-team league.
All right. Well, unless you guys have anything else to add to that one, we are going to move on to this thrilling game, the San Diego Chargers at the Cleveland Browns. I've actually been told we are not allowed to spend any time on this game. So, other than
start your Chargers, don't start your Browns, basically.
I think that's
Let's address one thing. We'll address one thing on this game, right? So, Melvin Gordon on ESPN is projected for 20-plus points in this game. If Melvin Gordon is active, are you starting him?
Yes.
Okay, me too. If he's active, I'm starting.
Yeah, I think you got to roll him out there. I would be worried about a pitch count. The other thing with him is, he needs 3 yards to get to 1,000. So if he's hurt, do they let him go out there, run once, and then pull him? That's something I'd be concerned about too. But I think you have to roll him out there and take that chance against this with a juicy matchup like this.
What's funny? People get all excited about 1,000 yards. You got to average like 60 yards a game to get 1,000. That's not even really impressive.
Yeah, but look at the lack of running backs that do it.
No, I know, and I realize he missed a couple of games here, but like people get all excited about that. You want to impress me? Go for 1,400.
Wow. All right.
1,400, the new standard.
The other thing we should touch on really quickly, not that I think there's too many people playing in a championship matchup that have RG3 as their quarterback, but there is some rumblings that they could bench RG3 or at least put in one of their other quarterbacks, throughout this game. So if you are depending you may want to look elsewhere. I know that hurts me, but just, you know.
Damn, man.
Got to give the people what they want, Sal. I can't in good conscience not bring that up.
That's right. The people want more RG3 news. All right, we've already spent more time on this game than we were allotted, so we're moving on. The Washington football team. Washington football team at the Chicago Bears. Last 5 weeks, Kirk Cousins, quarterback 2 overall. And wide receiver 3, that's going to be Deshaun Jackson. He's tied for second in touchdowns, and he is second overall in yards. So that has been a pretty nice connection. But the Chicago Bears have had a pretty solid secondary. So I'm thinking that this might be a bigger game for both of the running backs here. Both defenses rank in the bottom 5 against the rush lately. So you think that there's a lot of fantasy goodness kind of all the way around here? Is there anyone that you're really afraid to start in this game, Kev?
No, not really. I think you're starting all these guys that you have on these rosters. You know, you're starting Cousins, although he is your quarterback, you probably aren't in this game.
I need to apologize to everybody about that. I started him last week out of spite, and it just ruined him for everyone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice work, Steve. That did kill a lot of fantasy seasons for people. But you press ahead. If he is your quarterback and you did make it through, you're probably starting him. You're starting Deshaun Jackson. You're probably starting Crowder, even though unless you want to sit him. Jordan Reed is a guy I'd stay away from, as we talked about. And then on the other side, I think you could probably comfortably start Alshon Jeffrey and Jordan Howard. That's probably about it. Maybe Meredith if you're really looking for a flex.
A few weeks back, we went over guys that we trusted them going forward in the playoffs and looked at their matchups. And one of the guys who we thought had a tough schedule ahead was Rob Kelly. And Rob Kelly has been good. He's been serviceable. He's gotten touchdowns. And the Packers ran all over this defense last week with Montgomery and Michael. So I'm definitely good with Rob Kelly as an RB2 in this game. And I'm expecting 100 and a touchdown out of Rob Kelly this week. I
found it interesting to see him start getting a couple of targets.
Yeah, 4 for 47. I was going to bring that up.
It was great. I mean, he hadn't been using the passing game at all this season. So if that's a trend that will continue, then you got to love that.
You saw Chris Thompson dropping balls left and right. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I agree. Definitely anytime a running back that isn't getting those kind of targets and he starts getting them, only mean better things. Happy to hear that Alshon is still going to be a thing this week. I need him desperately in my falafel game. Sal, do you have anything else to add to this one? Kev, anything before we move on?
Yeah, you should have played Alshon last week.
Yeah, looking back, like I said, the only Alshon move, it wouldn't have helped me by itself. I would have had to make alternate moves to have earned the victory. So anyway, thanks for bringing that up. We're going to move on. Atlanta Falcons going to Carolina to play the Panthers. Atlanta is full of fantasy options all over the place, especially if Julio Jones comes back this week. So we are going to look at Carolina. Kev, what do you do with Kelvin Benjamin? Can either of you guess really quick where he ranks among wide receivers in PPR over the last 5 weeks?
47.
Oh, I was going to say 42nd, so...
well, you guys are both wrong. He is wide receiver 65, averaging just over 30 yards per game and 1 touchdown in that span. So is he a no-brainer? Get him out of your lineup this week.
Yeah, sit him.
Easily put him on your bench.
I don't think you can even. I don't think you can even have that as a question in your mind at this point. He did not get you to where you are if you are in the championship. So get him out of there.
Ted Ginn has been the guy, right? Ted Ginn he did it last year with them long touchdowns. He's doing it again. So Ted Ginn's a guy I'm considering playing. Cam Newton's back in my good graces.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. If you had Benjamin, you probably could have picked up Ginn at some point, after week 8 and been fine. So
the other guy I want to bring up is a guy who I've bagged on for a ton that I say just doesn't do anything for me and never really gets the old juices flowing. And Stewart's been pretty consistent, and I'd be putting James Stewart in there as a RB1 this week.
Jonathan Stewart, I believe.
Did I say James? Oh, did I say Jimmy Stewart? I like the old movies. I'm sorry.
Say you got the old Christmas movies on the brain there. I agree,
Actually,
Sal.
it was a James Stewart that used to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars years ago.
Sure.
Interesting.
No, I think Jonathan Stewart's been very good. What do you have? 135 yards last night, so no touchdown, which you don't like, and obviously Cam vultures his touchdowns down by the goal line. So, but hopefully you can see him score, and I think he's definitely in the RB2 category for sure. Sal, give us your thoughts on Julio, because I know you wanted to talk about that earlier.
Julio, listen. I'd have to know that he's practicing on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He's pushing off of this. He's pushing off on that. It's so difficult not to put the guy in a lineup, right? If you have him, this is Julio Jones, and he's going to go out there. But it's scary that he goes out there and just tweaks something early, and that's it. That could cost you an entire championship. So this is going to rest with the individual owner. Had I made it to Week 16 of FLAFFL, and I do own Julio, I'd have to put him in there over. My option would be Cameron Meredith. I'd have to put him in there over Cameron Meredith. But the other option I have is Malcolm Mitchell. So that's tough. Malcolm Mitchell's, his matchup is great this week. So I don't think I would make that move. I think that I would start Malcolm Mitchell over Julio Jones this week.
That's crazy. I couldn't do it.
You're crazy.
I couldn't do it because you know why? If Julio goes off and he's on your bench, you would never be able to live with yourself for making that call.
I have trouble living with myself now.
That's true.
All right. We are moving on. Just so everyone knows, those were all Saturday morning games. A lot of Saturday morning football, Saturday football being on Christmas Eve. So we are now moving into these Saturday afternoon games, and we start with a pretty exciting one. It is the Indianapolis Colts at the Oakland Raiders. Give me some of this game. I feel like there's going to be a ton of fantasy gold in this one. As Jay would say, the writer of our weekly waiver column, we talk about waiver claims a lot, and Jay writes our column for that every week on FLAFFLhouse.com, so figure we'd give him some love there. But is there any real concern over the Raiders offense? I just mentioned how Kelvin Benjamin was wide receiver 65 over the last 5 weeks. Amari Cooper comes in at wide receiver 46. So, Kev, what do you do with someone like Amari Cooper this week?
You got to start him. I mean, I don't see any other way up about it. I mean, you're definitely starting him. He's Amari Cooper. He's got that upside. I know he's been rough, but with Carr having the finger injury, it seems like they've kind of slowed down in the passing game a little bit. But Indianapolis is terrible against the pass overall in general. I think the teams are kind of focusing in on on Cooper, and that's kind of why Crabtree's had a bit of a better season. But I think you still got to roll him out there because he's got that potential to have that 150-yard touchdown game that you don't want to see sitting on your bench in a championship matchup.
What about on the Indianapolis side of the ball, Sal? I know you want to talk about your Raiders. You can in a little bit. But Dante Moncrief was back to practice today. Looks like he is going to be coming back, so that should mean good things for T.Y. Hilton. Are you rolling Dante Moncrief out again this week if he's healthy and able to go?
Yeah, when I do my ranks, he's going to probably be a borderline wide receiver 2 for me. It's a good matchup, but he's been really touchdown dependent when he is in there if he finishes games. So I'm not so sure. As a guy we all loved, obviously, we've spoken about him so many times over the last 20 weeks on this show. I'd have to look at my matchups. If it's a 3 wide receiver league, then he's in there for me. And then outside of that, I'd have to think about it in my flex.
All right, and I think Andrew Luck, Derek Carr, Frank Gore, Latavius Murray, I think they've all kind of wedged themselves into weekly starters there. Is there anything else you want to talk about on this one? It's kind of all fantasy players that you put in every week.
53.5 point over-under on this one, so I think Vegas thinks there's going to be a little bit of scoring here.
Yeah,
the only thing I'd like to say from an NFL standpoint is how did Amari Cooper make the Pro Bowl? I was shocked. My son told me tonight that he made the Pro Bowl, and I said Crabtree didn't, and he said no. And I definitely think that from a consistency standpoint, Michael Crabtree deserved to be the guy who went as a wide receiver from the Raiders this year. So it's a shame.
Some locker room friction coming because of that. Guaranteed.
Friction.
A little bit of friction. Yeah.
7 Raiders in a Pro Bowl, baby. It's a Christmas miracle.
Oh, man, I think the NFL is wondering why they didn't get this game flexed into the night game. Once we get to that one, we'll understand why that is. But for now, we move on, and we talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to New Orleans to play the Saints. It's funny how much the narrative has changed from this first matchup to now in terms of the fantasy implications this game has. Jameis Winston, somebody that I was definitely high on heading into the fantasy playoffs. He has been quarterback 23 over the last 3 weeks when you've needed him most heading into these playoffs in the first 2 weeks. And with his terrible plays, absolutely killed Mike Evans. So, it could have something also to do with Doug Martin and his limited production recently, too. So is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers an offense that you're trusting this week? Sal, we will start with you.
I'm trusting Mike Evans, and that is it from this offense this week. I might not have enough options to keep Doug Martin on my bench. He'll be a low end. He won't be a low end RB2. I mean, the matchup is really good, but I'm not sure he's going to get all the touches. They got a few different mouths to feed that backfield, and I could see Sims getting heavily involved in this game. So he'll be an RB2 somewhere in there in the mix. But Mike Evans is a definite start for me. Jameis Winston, I'm not comfortable with. I know this is a guy that people look forward to these matchups in the playoffs, but I'm sure I could find 12 other guys or even 14 other guys this week. I'm going to probably want to start over him. I know you're going to tell me I'm crazy because it's New Orleans, but it's just the way I see it.
Kev, are you going to tell him he's crazy? I honestly can't say he's that crazy at this point.
No, I can't say he's that crazy, but I will say, to your point, Steve, the narrative on this one changed, and it kind of sucks because when you looked at this matchup if you were getting ready for the playoffs and you saw any of your guys in this matchup, and for week 16 in a championship, you're like, all right, if I can get there, game on, because this is going to be points all over the board. And now these defenses are both playing a little bit better, and you kind of got to wonder. But I still think that at home, Drew Brees, after what he did last week, I think you're going to see a lot of points coming from that side of the ball. I think you can start all of your Saints comfortably. I'd be a little concerned with Mark Ingram if he's an RB1 for you or anything like that, because I just don't think he's there anymore. And I do think Hightower will steal some touches, but
I think Mark Ingram has yelled his way into some goal line touches this week, personally.
I actually was just going to say the same thing.
For goal line, sure, but I still think they're going to work in Hightower. I mean, I think he's going to eat away from him a little bit here. I don't think they're just going to give everything to Ingram.
How's about Willie Snead's reemergence the last couple of weeks? He kind of started off hot this season. He kind of had a lull there for a bit, but with Thomas taking a little bit of a step back. But Thomas actually didn't have a bad game last week either.
I mean, they all had a good game there.
I would Cooks was unbelievable. Yeah. Good call by me. Tap tap. But I would consider getting all 3 wide receivers in.
Yeah, I think you're okay to play him, and I think from New Orleans side of the ball, you're probably sitting Fleener if you were playing him. That's probably about it. And then
most people
Fleener
probably
since October.
Yeah, exactly. if for some reason you're playing him at all, don't. So, but that's about it. I think everyone on New Orleans is gonna have a good day.
Yep, I think you're pretty much getting everyone in from this one, as well as tempered expectations because of the first matchup, but I think they've all got that potential to go off. The games in New Orleans always seem to be pretty high scoring. All right, we are going to continue. The Arizona Cardinals go to Seattle to play the Seahawks. The Arizona Cardinals are the worst defense against wide receivers and the 3rd worst defense against quarterbacks over the last 5 weeks. And I still don't care about the Seattle offense, not one bit. I hate them.
Why you have to go and be so jaded?
So, Steve, what are you doing? Are you starting Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins?
I'm starting Kirk Cousins.
Hey,
I'm keeping with the trend. Over the last few weeks, Kirk Cousins has been the guy. Last week sucked. Russell Wilson did very well last week, but the law of averages say that Kirk Cousins will regress to what he's been doing, and Russell Wilson will regress to what he's been doing normally. So I think that the Seattle offense has got a pretty good matchup here, but I don't know if they fully exploit it. Just when you think figure on them, they take a big crap. So I'm not entirely trusting this offense any more than I have for the rest of the season. Kev, what about you?
Yeah, I think. Look, I think with Arizona playing as poorly as they are in the passing game, I think you got to trust the Seattle, passing offense anyway. I would be a little concerned about Thomas Rawls in this one. I'm not sure that I'm trusting him fully. I think he's a guy that probably didn't get you to where you are, so you may have a better option. For me, he'll be in the RB2, maybe flex probably closer to RB3 category for me this week when I do my rankings. We'll see how it shakes out, but Arizona's better against the run than they have been against the past, and I just think that Seattle's going to throw the ball all over the field, especially at home in this one. So I would be concerned about that, but I think Russell Wilson's a good play. Personally, Steve, if I were you, I would play Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins, but that's just me. I think Baldwin's a good play. I think Lockett has been on fire lately, so he's probably going to be a good play here as well, especially as that number 2 wide receiver, going up against Arizona. As we know, Patrick Peterson sort of shuts down one guy. So, but Baldwin plays from the slot a little bit too, so he might be free. So, I don't know. I'm not worried about the Seattle offense too much, except for maybe the running game. On the other side of the ball, I don't know how you're going to trust anyone on that team aside from David Johnson.
I can't
David
disagree.
Johnson's real good.
He's good.
He's very good, and even this is a tough matchup for him. I mean, I think lots of people have probably ridden him to the championship, and that's tough because if Seattle's a good defense,
So I can't disagree with a lot of what Kevin said. He covered it well. I'll just say 7 passing touchdowns against this Cardinals defense over the last 2 weeks, and 3 of those came from Ryan Tannehill. So.
Yes, I just remember the first time these guys played, and the game ended, I believe, in a 9-9 tie. So that is
week
what
was that?
It doesn't matter. One of the weeks that broke my heart early in the season. They all kind of just lumped together.
Early in the season is my point.
Yes, it was
Very
earlier.
Early in the season.
But by the way, I think you guys might have went to bed early that night. That was a pretty epic night in the FLAFFL chat on the Fantasy Life app. If you were in there for that game, it was a lot of fun. Kickers kicking posts, missing kicks. We had a fake Cat in the Zarro show up that night. Whoever the hell kickers for Seattle showed up. It was pretty funny. It was one of those nights that make hanging out in the FLAFFL chat really worth it. So get in there this weekend, people.
Get in there. All right, we are going to move on then and talk about the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. And we are done talking about this game. We are not talking about it very long, other than the fact that get your Todd Gurley's in there. If you benched him last week, which was a good call, and you started someone in his place, and that got you to the championship, this is the week to roll out Todd Gurley, right?
It has to be. If
get your Todd Gurley's hip.
Listen, if he cannot do it this week, I am very concerned about his season next year too.
I've got Todd Gurley on my FLAFFL team. I'm counting on him, buddy. I'm counting on you, big guy.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. That actually, you know what that means.
So he's going to roll an ankle in the first quarter?
Hey, listen.
Only other guy I'll bring up is Kenny Britt. Are we playing Kenny Britt this week?
Nope. I wouldn't.
Flex, maybe.
49 is third worst against wide receivers.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a flex. Yeah, but who's playing quarterback? So now Jared Goff's hurt, so he may not even be playing, which means what? Sean Mannion?
Yeah, they brought up a name that I didn't know was a football player.
Yeah. So.
All right, we've talked about this one far too long. We are moving on.
30 seconds
already. Yep, that was too much.
Yep.
So this is the Saturday night game that I unfortunately mentioned earlier. You know, earlier in the season, I'm sure they saw this one on the schedule and thought, hey, this is probably going to be a good game. It is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Houston Texans. It is the only game on, so you're going to be forced to watch it. It's going to be Andy Dalton versus Tom Savage.
That's not true. So, you could just spend time with your families.
It's Christmas Eve, for God's sake, Steve, you heartless bastard.
I will be with my family, and we will be watching football like all families should together. So there you go.
We're going to have the U-Log on TV.
I love the U-Log is phenomenal television.
It's not surprising that probably gets watched year-round in Boston. So
hey,
anyway.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know, but he insulted Boston, so I'm laughing.
Yeah.
All right. Is AJ Green going to be back this week? I believe so. And I am of the people that would say that you got to roll him out if he is starting. Sal, do you agree with that?
Us old guys say you're of the ilk.
Of the ilk. I was going to go with ilk, but
There's the phrase you're looking for there.
It was
Sal,
too old. I didn't know if I was
can
gonna
you
be
answer
out of
his
line.
question though? I'm asking for a friend. Just
God, this is another tough. This is the equivalent of the Julio situation, right? I mean, he appears like he was close to playing last week, and they have nothing to play for at this point. So I got to think that if they're going to play him, that he's healthy. So as a wide receiver too this week, hopefully he's not my lead guy, but there's a good chance he is. Yeah, I'm going to play AJ Green this week.
Yeah, I'm in 2 championship matchups where I have him, and if he's active, I'm rolling him out there because I agree with you, Sal. I think they're not putting him on the field unless he's 100% because they aren't playing for anything. It's a little different than Julio. I think they need Julio. Julio, there is always that potential for him to come out and be a decoy. I don't think AJ Green steps on this field as a decoy for any particular reason. I think if he's healthy, he goes. If he's not, he doesn't.
Then real quick on the other side of the ball, you're obviously going to start Lamar Miller. But like I mentioned, Tom Savage is going to be starting. DeAndre Hopkins, last week we mentioned he got 17 targets. But this week, the Cincinnati Bengals are the second best defense against wide receivers over the last 5 weeks. Are you rolling DeAndre Hopkins out into your lineup if you have him?
I'm not trusting that Tom Savage is going to come out and play like he did last week, which wasn't spectacular. It was good. It was good enough to get them to win or to get them to hold on for. Oh, wait, did they lose? No, they won.
They won. You don't think that he's better than any flex option you might have, Sal? Come on.
I start Malcolm Mitchell over him.
Interesting.
Wow.
Very interesting. Kev? So it sounds like you'd start him then, Kev.
I think he's probably at least a flex, if not a wide receiver too. I mean, I think that the matchup's tough, but it showed that he's getting some targets, and a different quarterback really does make all the difference because Asswasher's so bad that he wasn't, even when he tried to get the ball to Hopkins, he was throwing an interception or he wasn't getting it to him, or he was sailing it over his head. So if a guy can actually target him and maybe get the ball somewhere near him, I expect a guy as talented as Hopkins to make it work. So I'd be rolling him out there. I don't think you got him you got to where you are in the year based on his production. So as a flex or a wide receiver too, sure, I think he's fine.
Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins?
Hopkins.
Oof.
Oh, this week I'd probably go Diggs this week.
Goofy.
Probably go Diggs this week.
I don't trust that offense in Minnesota.
I don't trust Tom
played
Savage.
Terrible. Yeah, I think. Hey, I think he's better than Osweiler.
I'm better than Osweiler.
And possibly Sam Bradford.
And
we don't know yet.
Sam Bradford. Yeah,
we don't know.
I don't see.
So,
I mean, look, and they need this game. Close. They need this game. So
they need this. I need this.
You don't understand. I need this.
All right. Before I move on real quick, we talked about Lamar Miller. He's an obvious start. But for the Bengals, Jeremy Hill, guy that gets hurt every single game and leaves the game. Is he someone that you can trust in your lineup, Kev?
Yeah, because he always ends up coming back. I mean, he
gets hurt. He does 2 things every week. He gets hurt and scores a touchdown.
Yeah, then he scores a touchdown. So I think as a running back too, just like he's been all year, he'll get him in there and hope that he falls in the end zone at some point before he gets hurt.
All right. That's fair enough. We will move to the Christmas Day games, which are some pretty nice games. They unfortunately do not start until 4:30 in the evening for you East Coasters. Only 1:30 in the afternoon for us lucky enough to live on the West Coast.
Oh, that's good. Hopefully I can get all the people out of my freaking house by then.
There you go. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear this. It's the Ravens at the Steelers is the first game. It's Baltimore rush defense, but this week you've got Le'Veon Bell. You're rolling him out there, and you're not worrying about that. And you're going to roll out Antonio Brown, so we're not going to worry about him either. So for Baltimore, Steelers, they are 5th best against running backs and wide receivers over the last 5 weeks. Is there anybody you're going to feel comfortable starting from this Baltimore Ravens offense, Sal?
Yeah, the Steelers have really turned their run defense around. They were one of the bottom 3 for pretty much most of the season. Terrence West and Kenneth Dixon are not guys that were probably drafted in most leagues, so they were added later. So I got to think you have better options than those two guys in this matchup. Steve Smith is a guy I'm going to probably play at anybody on these two teams. On this Baltimore team. Steve Smith is the guy I would play. I'm not playing Flacco. And again, Steve Smith would be a low-end 2, high-end 3, or possible flex option.
Can't argue with that there. What about Ladarius Green, Sal? Looks like he's banged up again. Concussions, that makes me nervous.
Yeah. He
Sucks.
shouldn't be in a lineup.
I think you got to take him out. I agree.
If you guys remember back earlier in the year, there was a lot of they hiding possible career-ending head issues with him. So this is not something you want to be messing around with.
Yeah, not this week. That's for sure. Is there what about Ben Roethlisberger? He's somebody who his point production has been up and down fantasy-wise. He had a pretty solid day last week. This is a home game, but it's a tough divisional game against the Steelers. What do you think about Big Ben, Kev?
Heinz Field, man, you got to roll him out there. I think he's he'll be a top 10 play. So I think in most leagues you're going to start him.
All right, fair enough. Is there anything else you want to cover?
Was that definitive enough for you?
Yeah, that was pretty solid.
All right, good.
I liked it. I'm playing against Ben Roethlisberger.
You
so
playing against Bin Laden?
Happy.
I didn't even know he was in the league.
Let's move quickly, please.
Let's say I got a lot of fans on my side now.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So we'll move on to the Sunday night Christmas night game. The Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. This game's going to depress me. I've got a feeling about that.
Let's go Broncos!
I do not feel good. My Denver Broncos, they are fading fast and they are fading hard, and I expect that to continue.
Hey, listen, Andy Reid always finds a way to screw things up, so there is that.
That's true. He usually waits till the playoffs to do it, though.
That's also true.
He does it right. He waits till it really counts. So, Tyreek Hill. He only had the one touch last week, but we all remember, of course, what he did with that. Remember, yes, he is very, very, very fast. We all remember what he did against Denver a couple weeks ago on my bench, of course. So even though the Denver Broncos defense is as solid as it is, they are best against quarterbacks, best against wide receivers. Tyreek Hill is still a guy you're going to feel comfortable rolling out this week, Kev.
No, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was definitive on the last. I was definitive on the last game.
You come for your tough decisions, folks.
Yeah, I was definitive on the last game. I'm not going to be definitive on this one. I don't know. I honestly would. Look, I don't have Tyreek Hill on any of my rosters, so I don't have to make that decision, and I'm glad because it's a tough one. That usage scares me. Denver, as a defense, scares me in this one. I know what he did to them last time. I don't expect him to do that again. I think the emergence of Macklin last game scares me as far as Hill's usage, as I just mentioned. So I don't know. I'm nervous about him. I think you're probably rolling him out there as a flex, but I would be very nervous about it. Sal, give me your thoughts because I honestly I don't know.
Broncos 24, Chiefs 0. Bench all your Chiefs.
And maybe some actual thoughts.
That can't be real.
That's just me. That's just me being hopeful that we can get a 2-game lead on the Chiefs as an Oakland Raider fan. No, I understand exactly what you're saying, Kevin, because this guy has the unbelievable breakaway speed and big playability that he can almost do it against any team, and he did it to this team just a few short weeks ago. So I'm thinking I'm getting Tyreek Hill in my lineup at least as a flex this week. I'm going to have Spencer Ware in there, but like I said the other day, he's an RB2 for me at this point. He's not an RB1, but we know that Denver has struggled in stopping running backs. And, of course, you're going to have Travis Kelce in there. So those are the 3 guys you've been able to rely on from the Chiefs this year, and those are the only 3 guys I'd be playing. I'm not trusting Macklin in this scenario because Denver, they are very tough against wide receivers, and he does not have big playability. He's not the type of guy who's going to, break big ones against a defense like this. So Macklin doesn't get back into my lineup yet. And that's it on the Broncos side. Chiefs are not good against defending wide receivers, so I think you'd be comfortable with both Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. I'm not touching a running back on this team, and I'm not touching a quarterback or tight end on this team. So that's pretty much the extent of it.
Agreed.
Yep, that pretty much sums it up. I was going to say, I mean, if you have to start one of the running backs from this team, would you guys all agree that it's Justin Forsett?
What's that guy? What's that fullback's name? Jasinski? Jazawama Ding Dong? What's his name?
I think that's Baltimore, Sal.
Yeah.
Who's the guy on the freaking Broncos? You're a Bronco fan. Who is it?
Oh my God!
Scored a touchdown the first game of the season.
Janavorski?
I was so far off, wasn't I, Kevin?
I don't know. I don't know what his name is, but I think the guy you're thinking of is Baltimore, Juszczyk or whatever.
I'll tell you what, you're both talking about people that don't matter because they're not going to be playing for anyone's fantasy team this week.
Is correct.
So
Ripkowski!
We're going to move on to the Monday.
Falafel.
Ripkowski. Free Ripkowski.
Free Ripkowski.
That's right. All right. Monday night, the Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys. The only thing that I'm going to say about this game is that I would beware. I know the Zeke owners are like, all right, whatever. He's going to be just fine. But for everybody else, these are two offenses that when you watch them, they really like to control the ball. And they don't have really explosive big play offenses, except for, when Zeke breaks off his big plays. And so you have to be, if you watched the game on Sunday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you just saw that the opportunities for each team, they just don't take huge shots. And so they dink and dunk down the field, which runs a lot of time off the clock, which just takes even more opportunities away. So I'm going to be fading for the most part some players in this game because of that, because I don't like the way that these offenses run. They don't try and put points on the board as quickly as other teams do. So what are you guys looking at from a fantasy aspect from this one? Sal, we will start with you.
Oh, this is who the Lions are playing. Now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I'd go with Eli Manning. and almost because your dinking and dunking explanation, makes me even feel that way more. Ezekiel Elliott is not a question.
Now that Steve explained it, I see.
Yeah, well, Steve is very, he's very convincing. He's like that. I mean, how do you think he got that nice looking woman to marry him, for Christ's sake?
I was gonna say I am married and do have a kid, so
So you have
Zeke
fooled
Elliott.
people before.
Who's gonna throw this game right out the window? Who cares? Are you starting Zeke? I think you're starting Dez. You're probably starting Dak. Every time you doubt Dak, he comes out and puts up a nice, decent game for you. He's very consistent. He's got a very, very consistent floor, and I think he's an 18 point a game guy minimum. So I think you could get Dak in your lineup this week. I'm not worried with my Cowboys. Over on the Detroit side, yeah, I don't know who I'm trusting over here. Tate, maybe Tate's the only guy on this roster right this week that I'm going to get in there. Bolden is a guy who has had nice games, but not a consistent output on a weekly basis. He's more of a nice add for the actual Detroit football team that he's helped that wide receiving core come around. So start your Cowboys, start Tate, and move on.
Here's a question for you guys: if Riddick comes back and plays this week, are you putting him in there?
Oh, yes. Maybe not.
Talk about not being decisive.
PPR leagues, I would say you play him. He's a top of the line PPR back. If he's playing in PPR league, I have him in the lineup.
I think what you guys have said a lot tonight, these last 2 weeks where he has not been available, he's not played these last two games, and if you're still alive in the championship game, you probably have other options.
Someone else that's stepped up. I agree.
Someone else that's got you there in his absence. So I think you can, play the matchups. Maybe one of them is playing someone that's got a really, really tough matchup, makes it a little bit easier. But I think if you've got here, you're still playing, it's probably a little easier to leave him on your bench.
Yeah, I think you're right about this game in general, Steve. I can see this being a 10-3 game. I don't see a lot of scoring coming, so I would be nervous about most of the players in this game. But hopefully, if you are in the championship and you are playing these players, hopefully they pull it out for you. We're all rooting for you. That wraps up the games, huh, Steve?
Yeah, that was all of them.
That's good. I appreciate you taking us through that, and that does it for the show. Hopefully we have gotten you to your championship, and we will help you win it. And as I mentioned, just want to remind everyone really quickly, so that we will have the Falafel Festival episode on Friday, and then next week, only 2 episodes. They will be released on Tuesday and Friday. So just to keep that in mind, get your submissions in for Festivus, flafflehouse@gmail.com. And Steve, wrap it up with a finishing thought.
All right, everybody, thank you for hanging out and listening all season long as the fantasy football season, for the most part, comes to an end this weekend. You can follow us on Twitter at FLAFFL House. You can like our page on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find all kinds of articles that we put out on flafflehouse.com. And, of course, the FLAFFL Playoff Challenge, which we will be diving deep into next week. That is going to be going all throughout the NFL playoffs, so be sure to tune in for that. That is going to be a lot of fun. And other than that, I got nothing. I'm sure we've taken everything Sal could possibly say. So, Sal, what do you got?
Wait, before Sal gets to his finishing thought, Steve, I just have to say, did you listen to Sal doing the finishing thought when you were out?
Actually, I did not make it through the finishing thought.
You son of a bitch!
Oh, what? Because it was 90 minutes? You couldn't get there?
Honestly, that might have had something to do with it.
Well, in any case, he is not as good at it as you are. He tried to do your spiel. He tried to give all the information, and he did. It was a valiant effort, but he failed miserably. I would just like to say that next time you are out, could you please leave a recorded message for us so that we can play that?
Yes, I will absolutely do that.
For
you
the
guys.
record, I did it in perfect Sal fashion, and that's all I attempted to do. And my finishing thought is, F you, Kevin.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
I like it.
Happy Festivus,
Succinct.
Sal.
I got a problem with you people.
I am very excited for a Festivus episode. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, so I will cut it short and leave it until then. We will talk to you on Friday. Steve, hit the button.